All right. Hi, everyone. We are waiting for Dr. Andrews. Looks like she's going to be here soon. Hi. All right, so she's here. Let's get her joined in. Hi, Papa and Peanut. Hi, Peter's Run. No Mind 93. There's so many people here. Hi. All right. Dr. Andrews, let me know if you have issues getting in. I see that you're here. Hi, Jennifer. Timeless Tile. Hi, Armani. Mom Life. Hi. Hi, Sue. Hi, Alicia. I'm trying to get. Hi, Monique. I see that you're here. Let me know if you have issues signing in. Yeah, I see. Let me know what it is. Maybe I can guide you. Hi, Antonio. Your kids signed up for this live. I'm happy they did. Hi, David. We're learning really important stuff today. Basically, the best place to actually regulate your nervous system. So where on your body and how. So I'm happy you're here. Hi, BK Knox. Hi, KK. Hi, David Benji. Hi, Antonio. All right, let's see if we can retry this.
Hey!
Hi, I hear you.
Can you see me now?
Yes, I can see you.
Oh, good.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Jenny. Thank you for
Sorry,
coming.
not sure what happened there.
No worries. I'm happy you're able to join. All right. So, first of all, thank you so much for being here. Let's see if I can get right on the camera correctly. Thank you so much for being here. For everybody that's here, Dr. Andrews has been so amazing to us. She has supported Create since our early days when I didn't really have a program ready and I was just figuring out what we were doing. So she was so sweet to us, and she's given us her time. She's an amazing neuroscientist, a chiropractor, and speaker. And today I'm so excited to get her time so that we can learn why mindfulness doesn't work, why the body really needs to be regulated using body-based understanding and skills, and where exactly on your body you can help your body regulate or self-regulate. So thank you so much for being here. If I wanted to basically first let you do a little bit introduction and explain kind of your expertise, and then let's dive in.
Yeah, thank you so much, Natalia. I love everything that you're doing with Create Kids. And so for those of you that don't know me, I'm Dr. Monique Andrews. Most people call me Dr. Mo. And I am a chiropractor and a neuroscientist. And really, I have been teaching and studying for years in the realm of what I call embodied neuroscience. Basically, how we can work through the body to create changes in our nervous system state. And as you know, like our brain, our nervous system drives our whole lived experience as a human being. And so the state of our nervous system is really important in our experience of living, of life. Yeah,
That's actually why I was drawn to your work. I mean, the first thing I shared was actually one of your pieces from the Prana Institute, or your work with Prana. And if you could just give a little bit about that, because that's actually how I found you, and really like where the root of why we do this work. So
well, thank you so much. So my wife and I created the Prana Foundation together about 4 years ago. And really, we saw that there were so many gaps in conventional healthcare. And what we wanted to do was to create an engaged community with a lot of resources to teach people how to use their body. You know, we enter into this world and it doesn't come with a user's manual. And there are so many gaps in the conventional model that, you know, we wanted to develop resources initially for doctors so that they could then train their patients' kids, their families, how to, I guess, get better outcomes from this thing that we call our body and our mind.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. All right, awesome. So that's a great segue to why mindfulness is not the sole answer. So why you can't exactly only depend on your mind to get out of a nervous system dysregulation.
Yeah, this is a really important conversation, I think, because essentially there's two ways we can affect change in the body and nervous system. One is top down, right? And when we think top down, we immediately think talk therapy, cognitive based therapy, but also mindfulness sometimes fits in that category, especially if you're talking about just pure meditation, right? So that's a top down model. We then also have bottom up approaches. Those are those somatic, embodied types of practices that I teach. So your question was, why is it ineffective? And I would say sometimes it is effective. However, as a standalone, probably there are other things that we could be doing when something like mindfulness by itself doesn't work. And I just, a caveat there, I think mindfulness is critical to how we engage with the world. However, it's not always going to solve a problem of dysregulation within the nervous system.
Yeah, exactly. So the idea is that it's mindfulness isn't the only answer. And a lot of people get frustrated when they're like, I can't outthink this. I can't just put this thought down. And they don't understand that really sometimes it lies in the body or it lies in other skills, right? That really complement what's going on.
Yeah,
right?
There's a great quote by Bessel van der Kolk. He says that the rational mind is impotent to talk the emotional brain out of its reality. It's why talk therapy, why top down doesn't often or always work, because when we go into these states of stress, of trauma, we drop out of that thinking part of our mind. And actually, we drop into subcortical structures like the limbic system, survival based parts of our brain. And
I can't hear you. I lost you for a second. You're back. I can't hear you.
Okay, good.
You're back.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
The most overused phrase of the last 3 years. Can you hear me now? Sorry about that. A call was just coming through. How dare somebody call me? Anyway, where was I?
Yeah, so you're giving that great quote, and I agree that you can't out talk, or talk therapy isn't going to help you in certain situations because it lives in the body, and it lives sometimes because of prior experiences. And I actually thought that quote was a great way to segue into the next part of what I want to ask you is the three parts of the nervous system. So the vagal nerve and the different basically the hierarchies of power, right? So which one has power first, and what's kind of got?
That's a great question. You know, Stephen Porges in his polyvagal theory talks about 3 neural platforms, and these are actually a hierarchy. And at the very top is the ventral vagal system, and this is sort of like you're the king of the world, queen of the world. This is the I am. You can conquer anything, and we call this freedom, friends, and forage. It's where we're in our most elevated state. It's where play can happen. It's how we're able to connect with one another as humans. So that's ventral vagal state. And specifically, that's part of the autonomic nervous system. So let me just back up for a second. These 3 particular states that you're asking about are part of the autonomic nervous system. And when you are in school, they always teach you there's sympathetic and parasympathetic. And that's actually evolved quite a bit to involve these 3 primary states, or what we call neural platforms. So your ventral vagal state is that elevated state where you are feeling like you're on top of the world and able to connect and engage with others. What you look for in a child in ventral vagal is they are open and playful and energetic and happy. That's the ideal state, right? That's what you want.
Exactly.
Then the next neural platform is the sympathetic. And most people know the sympathetic to be that fight or flight state. You know, a child that's in fight or flight, they might either be very aggressive and fighting all the time. That's your bully on the, you know, in the schoolyard. Or they might be somebody who also is very fearful and anxious and filled with anxiety a lot and questions everything and has difficulty engaging. And then that third state or third neural platform is actually dorsal vagal. And that's when you see, that's what's called freeze or fawn. And literally the child will become disembodied. They'll dissociate, they'll numb out. They won't want to engage with other children. Their affect is flattened and they're sort of like in a cocoon all the time. You know, and as you can imagine, what state do we all want to have our children in? We want them to be in that ventral vagal, engaged, happy state. And what we've learned is that when there's dysregulation in the nervous system, we drop into these lower platforms. Now, it's normal that you go through them sometimes, but you should move through them and back to ventral. You don't want to see kids or adults getting stuck in these platforms, but sometimes we do see that. In fact, too often, because the level of stress is so high in people's lives.
Yeah, exactly. No, and I loved how you explained how it translates to a child and how they're appearing. So really, and most importantly, is because a child isn't really receptive to learning or really receptive to new information until they're in that higher state where they're happy and they're open. And that really is kind of where parents have the most difficulty, right? Trying to get them out of the lower states into the higher states. And just so, because basically at that point there is a breakdown, right?
And I think a lot of times parents feel responsible, like somehow it's a failing. I just want to go back to what I said at the beginning, right? In no way does this come with a user's manual. And so, you know, we invite parents to seek out and learn new ways to help their children move more effectively through that hierarchy to get to those states where they have this elevated, happy, engaged child.
Well, yeah, for sure. And if you can't move through the states, that is a lack of strength. So it not being able to is the problem in itself, right? And so let's talk about some of the let's move on to the next spot, which is essentially where in your body is the best place, right? And then also, is this an easy kind of place or way to teach a child, or like how, you know, what would you recommend in that way?
I think there's a couple of different approaches. And first of all, you know, in polyvagal in particular, we talk about stimulating the vagus nerve. Now, where that's accessible the most is right in around this area, in and around the ear. There's something called the afferent branch of the auricular branch of the vagus nerve, which is sensory. And so when you can stimulate in around this area, you can actually help bring up vagal tone to get kids, to get ourselves into that state, right? So how do we do that? Well, breath work is one way. Sometimes it's kind of hard to teach kids breath work, though. You can. I'm not saying it's not possible, but there's also some embodied strategies to do that. And depending on how young your child is, some things you can teach them to do themselves. But when kids are really young, one really effective way to do that is to actually just gently touch these areas in a soothing, almost like a massaging kind of way, right? If you're dealing with a toddler, you're not going to tell them, I'll show you the basic polyvagal exercise in a moment. That's kind of hard to teach a 2-year-old, but you can just lovingly touch them in these areas that we know the vagus nerve is so accessible transcutaneously through the skin.
Is that why tapping works? Is that kind of the idea behind tapping? Or just a quick question, just a curiosity.
Tapping is actually a little bit more in alignment with something called EMDR.
Oh, okay, so it's a different topic.
It's a little bit different. Maybe we'll talk
No,
about that one another day.
oh yeah, that's okay. I just thought, because you said very gentle touch, it just reminded me of that. But okay, so let's move. I really love that idea for a toddler, because I was thinking when I asked you to come on here that this area is amazing, but maybe just for older kids. And so I really, really enjoyed that. But let's move on to the actual one.
Oh, yeah. So, and in fact, there are many different exercises. That one that I just showed you is called polyvagal stretching. This one, and I think the one that you're asking about, is what's called the basic exercise. Now, this is how you do the basic exercise. Essentially, you lace your fingers together like that, and then you put your hands behind your neck and your head just like that. And then all you do, without turning your head, you just turn your eyes, okay? So you start by looking to the right, and you hold that until you have a sigh or a yawn. Now, I do this a lot. You saw how quickly I sighed, right? I yawned, actually. And that lets you know that you've brought up vagal tone. Once it
Okay.
happens from looking to the right, you then turn and you look to the left. And that
Okay.
same thing should happen where you have a sigh or a yawn. And the more frequently you do it, the more easily you'll get to that place. Now, people are like, well, how do you tell the difference between breathing in and a sigh? And literally, it's like there's like this second inhalation that happens. And then you know
Yeah.
that your vagal tone has come online.
Interesting. I think I felt that one. But so you feel like a extra kind of release, a calm.
Yeah, you feel a greater state of calm. And again, the more frequently you do it, when I work with people who have high states of sympathetic stress, or they're really low in dorsal vagal, then I will tell them, like, repeat that as often as you want throughout the day. And
And so
over
easy.
time, yeah, it's so easy. You can do it anywhere. And over time, you'll see it gets easier and easier, and you'll instigate that sigh or that yawn much more quickly. And that's a sign that you're bringing up vagal tone, that you're moving towards that social engagement system.
Well, I think that's easy enough that like generally 8+. I mean, I feel like you can kind of teach it to most kids once you get a little bit older.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
I love
you can. And you'll see little kids, like if little kids have stress, you'll see them. You mentioned tapping, and you'll see them doing this. And literally, this is anything in and around here is going to stimulate that vagal area, especially in and around the neck and the head. Or like this, for example, right? I do this whenever I'm stressed. I'm always rubbing my
that.
forehead. I know it stimulates the vagus now. And now I understand that. But most
Yeah.
people don't. And your medical doctor's never going to tell you these things because it's not in their realm of study.
Yeah, they don't really know. I mean, you need to have actual understanding of nervous system and embodied work. And I think we kind of glossed over breathing. And I did want to talk about how breathing is the way that you really connect the brain to the body
Yeah.
and kind of embody that connection. So could you really cover that for a second?
Yeah, sure. I think a lot of people, they have this idea that breath work helps to calm you. And what they don't realize is it doesn't just play an important role, it's actually key in nervous system regulation. And so when you're really stressed, I'll give you an example. Let's say you get frightened, right? A car slams its brakes in front of you. Your breathing will become really shallow and short and fast. When that happens, there are little receptors in your lungs that send a message to your brain to say something's happening physiologically, and it creates a whole cascade in your brain that puts you on alert. So your change in breath actually creates a response from your brain. Now, how can that go in reverse? And it does. So if you can bring your body into this sort of slow, deep, regulated breath process, what that does is it sends those same brain areas that message that says, oh, okay, things are calming down now. And so there actually are very prescriptive ways to breathe to once again help bring up that vagal tone and bring you into that elevated state. One very simple one is called the 4-7-8 breath, or box breath is another way to do it if you don't like counting, where literally you breathe in, you hold, and then you breathe out. And if you always breathe out, if that exhalation is longer than the inhalation, you're going to get that, what we call that polyvagal breathing. You're going to be able to bring up vagal tone. And I think kids can learn that too, right? They could very easily learn the box style approach, right? And so what happens is you're not just creating an effect in your mind that you're calm, but you are sending a message to your brain that everything in your environment is safe. We can turn down those physiological warning signals and actually start to enter into a state of calm. This is something you could do anywhere. Nobody ever even needs to see what you're doing or know what you're doing.
Yeah. Is it true that the more you practice it, the faster, so the connection between your breathing, your body, and your mind gets faster, and so you can actually calm yourself faster, like as you start the breathing process because you practice it so much?
Yeah, I think that, like with anything, right? The more you train, the better you get at doing it. One of my mentors, Pema Chodron, she says all it takes is 3 conscious breaths to change your entire lived experience. And I believe that. And I
Very cool.
think this brings me back to the mindfulness piece, because we sort of started this conversation talking about mindfulness and how it can often be ineffective. That's true. And I believe it's also a necessary way for us to navigate the world, because being mindful also means being present. And
Of
so
course.
it's not a practice that I would ever want anyone to stop doing, I think, but we also need to be adding in embodied ways to make sure that we are connected, and that we can sometimes go through the body to regulate the nervous system when we can't do it with our mind, that our mind is less effective.
Yeah, for sure. There are times where you just won't understand why you can't move through it mentally, and then there needs to be more tools so that when you get to that point, there's answers and there's strategies, right?
Yeah.
So if there's anything that we didn't cover, let me know. But essentially, I would like for you to let us know what you're working on, and specifically because I think your work is so important to what movement we're trying to do. Like basically add more body knowledge and body awareness, and how important that is in addition to mindfulness.
Thank you so much. I think what I would say before I tell people how to find me and what I'm doing is, I would say for them to be gentle with themselves. Like, it's not that you are failing in any regard if you have an anxious kid or a numbed out kid. It's just that maybe you haven't been taught the tools. And so this is where our work focuses on teaching people the tools so that they can change what their experience is and what their experience of the child is. And so we teach courses that anybody can take that essentially teach you these types of techniques. This weekend we have something, but in 4 more weeks on May 20th, we actually have one that's specifically for kids. It's called Polyvagal for Kids. Well, it's not for the kids, it's for the people.
Parents.
It's for the adults,
And the
but it's specifically aimed at working with kids. And you can either find that through my Instagram, at Dr. Monique Andrews, through our foundation, which is, you can also find on here, our website, pranafound.org, or just go to polyvagal4kids.com, and you'll be able to access and find that class. The one that we have this Saturday is more directed at from the adult perspective, but probably with the audience that you have on here, Natalia, that the Polyvagal for Kids one would be very interesting.
Yeah, for sure. That is the main reason why we reached out, and what we're trying to do. We're trying to make these tools more accessible to parents, because we want them to be accessible to kids. And so I have emails or messages all the time from parents looking for strategies for their specific issue. And I love the workshop. I think they'll find something, and I'm sure that you have a lot of stuff there for them. So thank you so much for your time, Dr. Andrews. Again, I really, really appreciate your support. And yeah, it's amazing. I really hope your workshop goes well.
Great. Thank you so much. And if anybody's trying to find me, of course, at Dr. Monique Andrews here on Instagram, we post interesting things all the time, and you can find those workshops in my bio.
Yeah. So this video is going to go up on our page, and I'll link everything in the caption and all that great stuff.
Great.
Thank you again. Thank you so much for you guys coming out. Thank you.
Bye now.